Welcome to a post-mid-year break. Bones of Advertising. I'm Craig McLeod, and this guy over here, of course, is...
I have got my mojo working today.
Oh, get your mojo, baby. You're talking, are we talking like, Felicity Shadwell kind of style, or not that kind of mojo?
Your mojo, darling. No, in actual fact, we are talking about the very antithesis of Britain's post-war superpower. We're talking about the great Australian advertising agency today. We're going to have a little retrospect today of Mojo.
Alan Morris and Alan Johnson, I believe, are the two gentlemen that came together. And
yeah, let me just take you down a little bit of history.
Just a walk down memory lane, my boy, and tell us how these two came to be.
Oh, well, Alan Morris's father, Carl Morris, returned from the war. You remember the big one?
Yeah, the big one, so
number two, and got a job as a production manager, I think, at a place called United Services and Production, I think, USP.
Creative name, JD.
Yeah. So they were bought out by Needham, Harper Needham, which is a big American business, and became USP Needham. So the Morrises were already involved in advertising and marketing in the game. They were in the game already.
Post-war, they were kind of already in the space.
In the space. So Dad worked as a production manager in a very well-regarded advertising agency. And then Alan goes troubadouring through Canada and gets a job as a copywriter. Gets a love for the game. Returns home to Sydney and joins an agency called Hertz Walpole.
Yeah, right. I still remember that name.
Yep. Hertz Walpole. It was around for until 2016 or something.
Yeah, it just sounds good. Like even Publicis, we'll get to that later, but Hertz Walpole, it just sounds like, they're good. Why? I don't know.
They just sound good. Yes, indeed. And there at Hertz Walpole, he meets a young man, a young bloody tyro called Alan Johnson. Alan Johnson is an Adelaide boy.
I
don't know much about
your Wisp of the Woods.
Oh yeah, I spent a bit of time in Adelaide. I can speak proper.
Beautiful wines there.
Yeah, they do have beautiful wines and quite possibly the world's worst beer. But well, no, I was a fan of Southwark, but not too many people outside South Australia. It was like the Vegemite of beers. Like you either really loved it or you just bloody hated it. Anyway, rabbit hole.
That was my fault. Sorry, I led you there.
No, that's all right. So he moved to moved from Adelaide to let me get this right. He moved to Sydney.
Yep.
An agency called, very creatively, Marketing and Advertising. And then
they must have thanks for that, JD. Just the name alone. What do you do? Marketing and advertising. What's your name? Marketing and advertising. I guess you're going to rank well, but they didn't have rankings back then.
They didn't have rankings back then. Really simple. Just keep it simple, stupid. That was their whole thing. So he joins the copywriting department, writing jingles.
Yep.
So
partial to a jingle, wasn't Al? He was very partial, quite like the little tune.
Jingle, which turned out to be the great success of the business. He then leaves marketing and advertising and joins Hertz Walpole. Yep. And at Hertz Walpole in 1973, 74, he joins forces with Alan Morris, and they have immediate success. Immediate.
But they brought, didn't they? They brought a couple of the key clients from where they were who were already.
No, you're getting in front of yourself. You're getting in front of yourself.
Sorry.
You're revising, you're a revisionist. And I've told you, I've warned you over and over again, you can't rewrite history. No.
Me backing up.
They met at Hertz Walpole.
Yep.
They did a couple of campaigns and then they went and started their own consultancy and took those juicy commercial vehicles with them.
Yeah, right. Lovely.
So, yeah. Classic little bit of, we like what you do. Could you do it for us over there? And that's what they did. Anyway, I digress. The first piece of absolute oral magic they came up with was for a little known Australian margarine, a vegetable spread called McLeod.
You ought to be.
You ought to be congratulated for remembering that. Let's play it.
Bloody brilliant.
Take a bow, Jenny Lee. That's how a sandwich ought to be. Well spread with McLeod. Congratulations, Jenny Lee. Take the stage, Mrs. Waits. What a lip smack and stack of pancakes with that McLeod taste. Congratulations, Mrs. Waits. All the things Australians love to eat taste better with Australia's favourite McLeod. Well done, every man. Good cook and makes this country run. From McLeod to everyone. You ought to be congratulated.
How, like, that brings back memories for people of a certain age. You'd have to say, like, and I love that it's not like it's Australian.
It's Australian, but one of the real important points, which I remember you saying to me, JD, when this was brought out, the ads at the time were this almost pompous English male voiceover all the time. Everyone,
welcome, yes,
welcome. You know, like it was very, very English. That's kind of everything that we'd had up to this point. Now, all of a sudden, you've got an Aussie kind of iconic voice, and I think one of the gents actually loved doing his own voiceovers as well. Didn't he? Used to sing some of the tracks. I can't remember. Was it?
Yeah. Oh no, I think they both probably
but
out of their own
so
voices.
Now you've got this Aussie voice cutting through with a killer jingle and something that sticks in your head. But you also went on to tell me when we were doing the research on this, JD, that they didn't get their dues for this, and the idea was so bloody good because it was a jingle, but it was a ripping jingle, and today still rings true. I mean, so much so that you were saying, you know, like it's people in the psychology profession will reference this tune to see whether the memory of the person they're talking about helps them understand where they are as far as whether they can remember or they can't remember things.
Oh, absolutely. So there's two really key points. Like, I think that they didn't get awards. They did not win the awards they were due because there weren't effectiveness awards back then, and everyone was falling in love with a new style of advertising, which is coming out of the Campaign Palace, which we will get to in another week.
Yeah, but they were that story to light as well.
They were the classic kind of advertising idea people. You got to see the idea on the page.
Ideation process.
Yeah. Whereas this idea in McLeod is like mum's the hero. Like mums all of a sudden, mums are like not just making sandwiches. They're like, you're providing, you're doing, you know, you're making sure your family's healthy. Like it shone a light on the person who would buy the product and say, we reckon you're bloody good, and thank you very much for buying our product.
It's extraordinary for the time, wasn't it? Because back then, mum may have been a housewife and probably wasn't the one being thanked for much, probably a bit of a thankless task back then. And what they did is they changed that to a point where they marketed directly to mum, who was the primary purchaser of this product, and said, you ought to be congratulated. And mum's like, what, me?
Yeah.
Someone's talking direct to me?
Yeah.
Was bloody beautiful.
Oh, indeed. And the memory hook, that psychology piece is, I think, is fantastic. Like they're so good. They became so good, and you're about to find out exactly how good they became. But they became so good at creating memory hooks that today, for people of a certain age, some psychologists will use some of the jingles, the advertising ideas put to music. So they weren't just a jingle, they were an advertising idea, musical advertising idea. People will use start singing those jingles, especially as we get into it, our favourite one with starring Dennis Lilly. As soon as you, and if people can remember that, it gives an idea of cognitive decline for psychologists. But we get ahead of ourselves just a little.
Bloody brilliant, mate. So good. But what's where do you want to go next? Do you want to go to another one?
I want to go to beer. I want to go to beer because they started like VB. We've spoken about VB before, the majesty of VB. Yeah. But the Tooheys ads from Hertz Walpole back in the 70s, this whole I feel like a Tooheys or two.
Mike Whitney.
Like, oh, let's play it.
Let's play it here.
How do you feel when a nasty ball sees a ninth wicket fall and there's a groan from the hill? How do you feel? 3 runs to go and they move in close for the final kill. How do you feel when you face Big Joe for the final ball and your blood chills? How do you feel when a cover drive sees a runs in sight and you run like hell? How do you feel when you beat the ball stretched out on the field? How do you feel? How do you feel? I feel like a Tooheys. I feel like a Tooheys. I feel like a Tooheys or two. I feel like a Tooheys. I feel like a Tooheys. I feel like a Tooheys rough brew.
And
So
anyone,
good,
I have to say, anyone who has ever seen Mike Whitney, I love Mike Whitney. I think he's one of the great characters of Australian cricket.
Yeah.
But I can't remember Mike Whitney ever hitting a cover drive off Joel Garner through anywhere.
Never happened, mate. But who cares? For the point of the ad, it was perfect.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And they did a whole lot. They did Alan Bond. They did I think when Jeff Tuvey started at Manly, they did a thing for the Cronulla show. It was very Sydney centric, but they had it all fares with how do you feel? How do you feel? I feel like a Toohey. And everyone, and a Tooheys, no, not just a Tooheys or two. Like, have another one.
Don't just have one. Tip them in one after the other. I love it. That was a ripper.
So they leave Hertz Walpole. They start their own advertising consultancy.
Yep.
And they leave, and Meadow Lee and Tooheys follow them.
Yep.
So Tooheys gives them permission to do a Swan Lager campaign, which was just a delightful, this Swan's for you. Yep. And it was still a bloke on a guitar, and it's about overcoming. Yeah, it's overcoming obstacles. That's so right. Yeah. But there was still that great Aussie knockabout humour. Like you look at that Greg Norman. Let's play the Greg Norman one.
Bloody brilliant.
They said you'd never make it. Surfing's more your game, and your golf is too erratic. You'd better stick to riding waves. They said you'd never make it. It seems their words were true. It must have been heartbreaking when you knew what you could do. They said you'd never make it, but you finally came through. For all of you who made it, this one's made for you. Made for you. This one's made for you. You've made it through, and this one's made for you.
So good. The shark. And with the claret jug after, just showing everyone. Yeah, see that's mine.
Yeah. But the whole that whole recognition of you choked a couple of times, Greg, didn't you?
You didn't give up.
Yeah.
Didn't quit.
No.
Number one for longer than most, mate.
Longer than everyone but one. Yeah.
So people forget that when they talk about the Shark. They're so quick to knock him. But also more wins on the tour, but maybe not majors, more wins on the tour than almost just one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Well, no, except I think there was a guy called Gene Saracen back in the day, but he was one of the most successful golfers of all time.
Yep.
But then rabbit hole.
We love rabbit holes.
And then they back that up. So they've done Tuis, they've done Swan. Then they go to Queensland and they drag out this one.
I can feel the forex coming on. I can feel the forex coming on. Got the taste for it, just can't wait for it. I can feel the forex coming on. I can feel the forex coming on. I can feel the forex coming on. Got the taste for it, just can't wait for it. I can feel the forex coming on. I can feel the forex coming on. I can feel the forex coming on. Got the taste for it, just can't wait for it. I can feel the forex coming on.
I can feel a forex coming on. And this piece, this became, I can feel the forex coming on. You would hear, like they did a whole lot of cricket. They had Alan Border sitting on the beach, and Jeff Thompson creeping up behind him because he's got the bloody forex in the like. There's a whole lot of this stuff, but I can still remember guys at the cricket when the Aussies looked like they were winning at the Gabba. Someone will start saying, "I can feel a forex coming up," and everyone's just bloody screaming, "Yes, yes!"
It was bloody brilliant. And you know what? Even today, people of a certain vintage will still sing that.
Yeah.
And it's still around today, which is extraordinary to think. And they were known for their jingles, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Perhaps the best jingle they ever wrote. The best one, I think.
This is extraordinary. Love it.
This is just like, so Kerry Packer has just launched World Series cricket.
Yep.
They need to get people a little bit excited by it. And Mo and Joe walk in with a guitar and an Aussie accent, and they rip out this piece of majesty.
You've been training all the winter, and there's not a team that's fitter, and that's the way it's gotta be. 'Cause you're up against the best, you know. This is super test, you know, and you've gotta beat the best the world has seen. Lily's pounding down like a machine. Pascoe's making divots in the green. Marsh is taking wickets. Hooks, he's clearing pickets. And the Chapel's eyes have got that killer gleam. Mr. Walker's playing havoc with the bats. Redpath, it's good to see you back. Lady's making runs. Dougie's chewing gum. And Gilmore's wielding willow like an axe. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on, come on. Come on, Aussie, come on.
Wow. Come on, let's sing it.
Lily's pounding down like a machine. Pascoe's making divots in the green. Oh, it was just, come on, Aussie, come on.
Their finest work, bar none, up to this point, because I do love the one we're going to talk about after. But how good was this? And what it did for World Series cricket, mate, was extraordinary. And today, again, not only like the Forex, but people still sing this today.
People have never seen the ad.
Never seen the ad, but still sing it at the cricket.
Oh, it's fantastic. Like it has become a part of Australian culture. It's genius.
Yep, it's part of our pop culture. It's part of the history, mate.
And if any of the young listeners are out there wanting to see exactly why blokes of a certain age love cricketers of a certain vintage. Just have a look at Dennis Silly's magnificent work coming into the pitch there.
The ingot as he's coming down, because back then he was buff and it's bouncing this ingot from side to side. Oh, was that Tomo? I can't remember.
No, that was Dennis Silly. And when he turned and
remain like a gorilla just coming down.
Yeah,
bloody brilliant.
And when he turned and walked back past the umpire, if the other batsman was standing there, he would just go and flick a bit of sweat at the batsman as he walked past.
What about big Maxie Walker as well, where he used to chase down his balls and bump into the guys?
Oh, it's a bit of an accident. Sorry about that.
Oh, I love it. It was
pure entertainment. It was brilliant.
It was really brilliant. And you're right. It was something that connected an audience to cricket that they've not been able to replicate ever since. And I know it was a genre where they changed from being test cricket to this World Series, and it was shorter, and it was nights, and mate, they packed the MCG. They sent them out in these extraordinary colours, but the tune that was connected to it as an advertising campaign, if you ever want to understand the impact of a cue, that is something to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. A brand asset.
A brand asset.
Non-pareil. Yeah, indeed.
Gold medal material.
And then
where are we going? Are we going to my favourite Hogs?
We're going to Hogs. We're going to buddy Paul Hogan. So Paul Hogan was discovered, like he's got a television show that's, a little bit hawker and a little bit knockabout, and and they came out with this.
America, you look like you need a holiday, a fair dinkum holiday. In the land of wonder, the land down under. Now, there's a few things I've got to warn you about. Firstly, you're going to get wet because the place is surrounded by water. Oh, and you're going to have to learn to say g'day. Because every day's a good day in Australia.
G'day, Paul.
G'day, love. Of course, you'll have to get used to some of the local customs, like getting a suntan at a restaurant, playing football without a helmet, and calling everyone mate. Thanks, mate.
She's right, mate.
Apart from that, no worries. You'll have the time of your life in Australia. Of course, we talk the same language. Although you lot do have a funny accent. Oh, before you rush out to book your Aussie holiday, get the Aussie holiday book from your airline or travel agent. Come on, come and say g'day. I'll slip an extra shrimp on the barbie for you. America's discovered the wonders down under. Have you?
And it's not a music, but there's still to this day, people in America, when they're talking about Australia, will reference throwing another shrimp on the barbie.
Yeah.
Like that is just, that's got legs. That's got people who don't even realize that Paul Hogan was in an ad. Yep. People who don't even realize that this was part of an ad campaign.
Yeah. It's
become such a part of the culture. I'll throw another shrimp on the barbie for you. And it's just that whole, we'll say g'day. And just everyone just really simple stuff. It's
when
just
you stack
glorious.
That up as a body of work, although, no, there's one more. You got one more?
There is one more, but I don't think, given the laws of broadcasting, we can't play the song. But I will mention that I was overseas when this ad first came out, and to this day, this ad still brings a tear of just sheer bloody patriotism. I love the country, and I love what this brand means. Qantas.
Still call Australia home. I love it. And Peter Allen, I mean, just so Aussie, such an Aussie icon as well. And it's still today, the Qantas ads are still using the same song today, or maybe it's not current right now, but the last campaign I remember seeing was them still using it.
Yeah. They started with a whole lot of singers. Like the very first iteration was Kate Sobrano and Jack Jones from Southern Sons, and a whole lot of and it was a lovely ad. And then they just shifted it up a gear and got a whole lot of beautiful kiddies with marvelous voices standing on giant bloody
cliff tops and
the top of the Sydney.
Helicopters shooting them. It was beautiful. It was just epic.
Just glorious. But it made you understand, so it captured that whole, when they say this is the spirit of Australia,
Yeah.
That's what they captured in that.
The essence of Australia is in that song, and then they connected that to their brand.
Yep.
How much that's what you want. Qantas became Australian.
Yep. And that's all of that trickles down to a bloke from Adelaide and a guy whose dad came back from the war. Like just a stunning body of work.
Yeah.
And like they were at one stage the largest billing advertising agency in Australia.
Yeah,
like,
I think you were saying, like, what was it, like in 89, the 180 million or something? What was it?
Yeah. Largest,
89, when they were with MDA, so they joined with Monaghan, Damon and Adams.
That's correct.
180 million in billings.
Yeah. Which is like back in the 1980s, that was serious. That was proper money. Like that.
Yeah.
Like not something that Bill Gates can find down the back of his couch. Like this was real money.
Yeah, this was real coin back then. And you then were saying as well, they went on to get Advertising Agency of the Year, or from Ad Age. Was that prior to 1988, wasn't it?
They got Advertising Agency of the Year, and they both got kind of lifetime achievement awards from Ad News and Ad Age. Like they got Ad Age, which is not an Australian, that's an international advertising publication. They got Ad Age Agency of the Year.
Yeah, right.
So all the agencies in the world that people could choose from, they chose Buddy Mojo from down here, over and above any other. Like anyone who was doing like proper advertising, like idea-based advertising, show me how good my art direction and my writing is and clever, and there's an advertising idea. Like this was two blokes and a guitar.
Primarily,
and they get Ad Age Agency of the Year. It's stunning. And then they get bought by Try It Day, and what was the delightful euphemism? The culture didn't fit.
Yeah, but Try It Day were Apple at the time as well. So they were very strong, connected with jobs and belting out all of those extraordinary campaigns that they came up with as well. So they had a head of creative who I can't think of his name right now, but
he
Lee
was
Clow, I think it was Lee Clow was kind of the king there, and perhaps it just didn't quite connect because too many cooks in the kitchen, mate. Sometimes makes really.
I don't think it was cooks in the kitchen. I think it was like there was a cook in the kitchen and these two blokes drinking beer out in the lounge room.
With a guitar.
I think that's probably.
So why don't you do this for Apple? It's bloody brilliant. It's really cool.
And then so they were sold by Try It Day and bought by Foot Cone Belting, FCB.
Yep.
And then FCB was acquired by Interpublic. So it all of a sudden it becomes not an advertising agency, it becomes an advertising part of an advertising conglomerate.
Yeah.
And then they get integrated into Publicis, which is a French mob, and they become Publicis Mojo. And then eventually, Mojo just drops off the sign, and they, they return to the dust from whence they were built.
Yeah.
But while they were here, they created ads that sold product they weren't designed to win awards. They were designed to make people feel good about buying a product, and they understood what customers needed to hear.
They understood what advertisers needed done. They needed to create campaigns that people remembered when they were ready to buy. They drove sales. Their campaigns were about making people buy their stuff. Definitely.
Absolutely. And we will. We'll do a little retrospective on the Campaign Palace and completely shift.
Who were their nemesis. So they were kind of similar time frame, weren't they? But with very, very different focus. So one, as we said, kind of changed the landscape with that, English style VO into this Aussie and iconic Aussie voice with a stack of tunes that went with it. So the music was really big for Mojo, whereas Campaign Palace, very different philosophy, but we'll touch on that another time, my boy.
We will. We really do.
To the end of another edition of the Bones of Advertising.
That has brought us to, much like Mojo, to the end of our journey. Yes.
What a strong return post mid-year break, mate. Well done.
Ah, well, no, well done you. Well done you. It's been a delight. That was a lovely trip down memory lane. We should do that again.
Don't go changing. I'll see you next time.
I won't. Take care.